The night before he tried to take my house, my son-in-law sat by my hospital bed and read my own eulogy out loud to me. Bradley, 41 years old, marketing executive. He pulled a folded page from his jacket and smoothed it flat on his knee like he was about to give a presentation. He said it quietly, almost gentle. Bradley, I just want to see Harold. I want to see if the old engineer still has any feelings left in there. I am Harold, 76, retired civil engineer, widower of 9 years. My wife Eleanor died on a Sunday in March, and I have not been a man who cries since. Bradley knew that. He was counting on it. What Bradley did not know was that the lamp on the table beside my bed was not just a lamp, and the quiet old man in the bed was not as quiet as he looked. And the document he was going to slide in front of me the next morning, the one he called a routine Medicare form, was about to become the worst mistake of his life. Stay with me. I want you to hear every word he said. The stroke happened on a Tuesday in August. I remember because I had just finished my coffee and was reaching for the newspaper when my right hand stopped knowing it was my hand. I went down between the table and the refrigerator. I lay there for 40 minutes before the mailman knocked. He saw me through the screen door and called the ambulance. 3 weeks later, I was sitting up in a rehab bed, eating soft food, and learning to write my name again with my left hand. The doctors said I was lucky. They said the man across the hall had not been so lucky. I could hear his wife crying through the wall every evening. That is when my daughter Karen came in with Bradley behind her. Karen. Dad. We have been talking. The rehab place is understaffed. They are not going to give you what you need. Bradley. We have a guest room, Harold. Big bed. Private bathroom. Karen can take care of you herself. I looked at Karen. She would not look at me. She was looking at Bradley, the way a child looks at a parent for permission. I should tell you something about Bradley before we go any further. Bradley never liked me. Not from the first dinner. He was the kind of man who shook your hand and measured it. The kind of man who asked what something cost before he asked what it was. He sold marketing to dentists. He drove a car he could not afford. And he called me Harold the way other men say sir, with just enough air in it to make it an insult. But I was tired. I was 76, and I had just learned that my own body could betray me in the time it takes to lift a coffee cup. I said yes. 3 days later, I was in their guest room in Glenview, Illinois, and my house in Lake Geneva was sitting empty 90 minutes north. The first week, Karen was kind. She brought me soup. She read me my mail. She helped me to the bathroom and pretended not to notice when I needed her to. The second week, Bradley started moving things. He moved my pill bottles from the nightstand to a high shelf in the kitchen. He said it was so I would not accidentally double up. I had not double-dosed a pill in 76 years. He moved the phone, the little portable handset Karen had put by my bed. He said it was waking him up at night when telemarketers called. He put it on the charger in the living room, 27 feet from my pillow. I counted because I am a civil engineer, and I count things. He moved my reading glasses. Not far, just 2 feet farther than I could reach without standing up. Every time I asked for them, he sighed. Bradley. Karen, your father needs his glasses again. That was the first thing I noticed. He never spoke to me directly when she was in the room. He spoke about me, through her, in front of me, as if I had already left. There were 4 small changes I noticed in that first month. The pills, the phone, the glasses, and the way visitors stopped coming. My old colleague Frank from the engineering firm drove 90 miles to see me. He sat with me for 20 minutes. After he left, I heard Bradley in the hallway. Bradley. Frank, listen. He has good days and bad days. Today was rough. He is pretty incoherent most afternoons. Maybe call first next time. I had been completely lucid. I had told Frank a joke about the new bridge on Lakeshore Drive. Frank had laughed so hard he had to set down his coffee. After that, the visits thinned out. Then they stopped. If you have ever lain in a bed in a room that is not your own and listened to someone in the next room rewrite who you are, You know what I felt. You also know you do not say anything. You wait. The first time I knew I had to fight back was a Thursday. Karen had gone to yoga. Bradley sat down on the edge of my bed, which he had never done before, and he put his hand on my blanket near my knee, which he had also never done. Bradley, Harold. We need to talk about Lake Geneva. I waited. Bradley. That house is just sitting there, empty. It is a liability. Karen and I have been thinking. If we put it in our name, we could maintain it for you. Take that worry off your shoulders. I looked at him for a long moment. Harold. Bradley. I built that house in 1984. I poured the foundation myself. Bradley. I know, Harold, and nobody is taking anything from you. We just want to help. He patted my knee twice and stood up. He smiled. The smile did not move the rest of his face. That night, I called my neighbor in Lake Geneva. His name is Walter. He is 79. He spent 31 years as a federal prosecutor in the Northern District of Illinois before he retired. He and Eleanor used to share tomatoes over the fence. I waited until Bradley was downstairs watching television, and I used the phone from the nightstand on Karen's side, which she had forgotten to take with her. Harold. Walter, it is Harold. Walter. Harold. Where are you? I have been calling the rehab place for 2 weeks. Harold. I am at Karen's. Something is wrong here, Walter. He was quiet for a moment. Walter. Tell me everything. Start at the beginning. Do not skip anything because it sounds small. I told him about the pills, the phone, the glasses, the way visitors had stopped, the Lake Geneva conversation that afternoon. Walter did not interrupt. When I was done, he said one sentence. Walter, I am going to drive down on Saturday, and I am going to bring you a lamp. I did not understand at the time. I would understand soon. Walter came that Saturday. He brought a beautiful old reading lamp with a brass base and a green glass shade. He told Karen it had been Eleanor's favorite color and that he had found it at an estate sale and thought of me. Karen cried a little. Bradley shook Walter's hand and called him a good neighbor. Before Walter left, he sat with me alone for 10 minutes. He bent over the lamp like he was adjusting the bulb. Walter, voice activated, the little switch on the back of the base. Flip it up when you want it recording. Flip it down when you do not. It will hold 60 hours. I will swap the card every Sunday when I visit. Harold. Walter, is this legal? Walter. Illinois is a 2-party consent state for phone calls. In-person conversations in your own room, where you have a reasonable expectation of privacy, you can record. I would not have brought it otherwise. He patted the lamp. Walter. Harold. If something is happening here, we are going to know exactly what it is, word for word. I flipped the switch up that night before Bradley came in with my dinner tray. He did not say anything cruel that evening. He talked about the weather. The lamp recorded 40 minutes of weather. But on Sunday, Walter came back with a smile and a new memory card. And on Tuesday, Bradley said something he should not have said. And on Thursday, he said something worse. And by the second Sunday, Walter sat in his car at the curb, listening on headphones for 90 minutes before he came inside, and when he came inside, his hands were shaking just slightly. Walter. Harold. We have a problem, and we have a plan. Before I tell you what was on those recordings, I want to say something to you. If you have ever been treated like a piece of furniture in a house you helped pay for, by a person who married into your family, and decided your life was an inconvenience, I want you to know you are not crazy. The small things are the evidence, the pills, the glasses. The phone moved 3 feet. Stay with me. We are almost there. Bradley's cruelty escalated in a pattern. First, it was logistical. The pills, the phone, the glasses. Then it became social. Telling visitors I was incoherent. Telling Karen I had cried about the bathroom and was probably depressed. I had not cried about anything since Eleanor. Then it became intimate. There was a Wednesday in October. Karen had a work dinner. Bradley brought me my soup and sat in the chair beside the bed. He did not turn on the television. Bradley. Harold, can I ask you something? Man to man. Harold, go ahead. Bradley, when Eleanor died, did you cry? I looked at him. Harold, that is a personal question, Bradley. Bradley, I am just curious. Karen said you did not. She said at the funeral you read the eulogy without a single tear. She said it was strange, almost cold. He said it the way a man says something he has been saving up. I did not answer. He sat there for another full minute. Then he picked up the soup bowl and walked out of the room. The lamp got every word. That night I lay awake until 2 in the morning. I was not afraid. I was something colder than afraid. I was an engineer again, the way I had been at 35, when a contractor tried to short me on rebar in a parking garage, and I made him tear up the slab. 3 weeks later, it was a Thursday evening. Karen was at yoga. Bradley came into the room with a folded piece of paper in his hand. Bradley, Harold, I wrote something. I want to read it to you. I said nothing. He unfolded the page. He smoothed it on his knee. And he began to read my own eulogy out loud in my own bedroom while I was alive in the bed in front of him. He read about how Harold had been a man of structures and not of feelings. He read about how Harold had loved Eleanor in his own quiet way, even if he had never quite known how to say so. He read about how Harold had built bridges that would outlast him, and how in the end, perhaps that had been enough. He read for 4 full minutes. When he was done, he folded the page and looked at me with his head slightly tilted. Bradley, I just wanted to see Harold. I wanted to see if the old engineer still had any feelings left in there. I did not move. I did not blink. I let him have his answer. He nodded once, like a man confirming a hypothesis, and he left the room. The lamp got every syllable. The next morning, he came in with a clipboard and a pen. He was wearing the smile from before. Bradley, Harold, Karen needs you to sign this. It is a Medicare form, just routine. We need to update some paperwork before your next appointment. He held the clipboard at the angle a man holds something when he does not want you to read it. Harold, set it down on the tray, Bradley. I want my glasses. He hesitated. Then he handed me my glasses and set the clipboard on the tray. It was a quitclaim deed. Lake Geneva. 3 pages. The property I had built in 1984, transferred from Harold to Karen and Bradley as joint tenants with right of survivorship. There was a yellow tab on page 3 where my signature was supposed to go. I looked at it for a long time. I could feel Bradley watching me. Harold. Bradley. This is not a Medicare form. He laughed. The laugh was not quite a laugh. Bradley. Harold, that is just the legal language at the top. It is part of the same package. Karen and I are just trying to protect the property in case anything happens. Harold. In case what happens? Bradley. Anything, Harold. Anything at all. I picked up the pen. I held it over the signature line. I watched his eyes follow the tip of the pen down to the paper, and then I set the pen down. Harold. I would like to call my attorney before I sign this, Bradley. The silence in that room was the longest silence of my life. He did not answer for what felt like a full minute. Then he picked up the clipboard, very carefully, the way a man picks up something that has become evidence, and he walked out of the room. I waited until I heard his car start. Then I reached for the lamp and flipped the little switch down. Walter was at my bedside 90 minutes later with the most recent memory card already in his pocket, my attorney on speakerphone, and a man named Daniel Reyes from the Elder Fraud Unit of the District Attorney's Office on his way over from the county building. There were 3 weapons Bradley did not know about: the lamp, the neighbor, and the engineer. He found out about all 3 on a Monday morning in the kitchen of his own house. Daniel Reyes sat across from him at the kitchen table. Karen sat at the end. I sat in my wheelchair at the doorway. My attorney stood behind me. Walter sat to my left with a folder on his lap. Reyes slid the first page across the table. The quitclaim deed. The yellow tab still on page 3. Reyes. Mr. Bradley, Can you tell me what this is? Bradley. That is a property document. My father-in-law and I had been discussing. Walter opened the folder. He slid a single sheet of paper across the table. A transcript. Bradley's voice. The Lake Geneva conversation. Word for word. Bradley looked at the page. He did not pick it up. Walter slid a second sheet. The eulogy. Every word he had read in my bedroom, including the line about seeing if the old engineer still had any feelings left. Bradley's hand stopped halfway to the page. Walter slid a third sheet. The Wednesday conversation about Eleanor. The question about whether I had cried. Karen made a small sound, like a chair being pushed back too fast, even though she had not moved. Reyes. Mr. Bradley, the state of Illinois considers what is on these pages attempted financial exploitation of an elder. That is a felony. We also have additional recordings we have not yet transcribed. Would you like to call an attorney before we continue? Bradley did not answer. He picked up his coffee cup. His hand was not steady. He set it back down without drinking. I spoke for the first time. 5 words. Harold. I built that house, Bradley. He looked at me. For the first time since the stroke, he looked at me like I was a person sitting in a chair, and not a piece of furniture, and not a bowl of soup, and not an inconvenience in a guest room. He looked at me like I was Harold. Then he looked down at the table. Karen filed for divorce 11 months later. Bradley accepted a plea on the exploitation charge. No prison. 5 years probation. Restitution. A permanent record that follows him every time he applies for a marketing job at a firm that does any kind of background check, which is all of them. I live in Lake Geneva now. I read on the porch most afternoons, weather permitting. Karen visits on Saturdays. She brings tomatoes from Walter's garden because Walter still lives next door, and Walter is 79 and still beats me at chess. The lamp is in the living room. The little switch on the back of the base is flipped down. It has been flipped down for 2 years, but I have not moved it. I have not even dusted it the way I dust the rest of the room. Some evenings, when the house is quiet and Karen has gone home and Walter's porch light has clicked off across the yard, I sit in my chair and I look at the brass base and the green glass shade, and I think about the man who read my eulogy out loud to see if I would cry. I did not cry then. I have not cried since, but I keep the lamp.